Hello everyone, AmyR here from Prairie Paper and Ink on the Picket Fence Studios YouTube channel to share a really fun birthday card using a mix of some of the newer products from Picket Fence and a couple of oldie but goodie favorites. As always, I will have links to everything I used in the description box below the video so you can check that out, and let's get right into making this card. So I'm starting off with the Sweet Holiday stamp set. This came out later last year. And I have some Strathmore watercolor paper. And I'm going to put that into my MISTI tool. And I'm going to use my anti-static powder on the watercolor paper so that the embossing powder I want to use doesn't cling to anything other than the stamped image. Now, like I always say when it comes to watercoloring, images don't need to be heat embossed. I just choose to heat emboss them because the heat embossing creates like raised edges, which are basically like bumper pads, and keep things a little more contained. And that especially comes into handy because I'm using my Clair Brush Marker Pros, and these markers are, I guess, juicy is the easiest way to describe them. And that plus, the water, everything, I was like, I can use all the help I can get keeping things a little more contained. So, embossing powder for the win. So I stamped the Cupcake image with VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink and then coated it with Detail Clear embossing powder. And I'm going to melt that with my heat tool. Now, while this is it's the Sweet Holiday stamp set, this cupcake, I think, can be kind of any occasion. The other one's got, a candy cane in it. It looks a little more Christmassy. But this one, I was like, this can work for anything. Why not? So after I melted the embossing powder, I trimmed off that part with the cupcake. And then this part, I'm using a couple of the numbers from the Blow Out the Candles stamp set. I really like these. They just... we can still get them here. The number candles they're hideous. The ones I've seen anyway that we can get, they're just like primary colors and they're not pretty. They're quite ugly, but they're still fun. I don't know. I have a thing for candles and all that kind of stuff, but rather than make them hideous for my card, I decided to gold heat emboss these. Make them a little more, a little more trendy, a little more pretty. So I stamped the two images with clear embossing ink this time on the same watercolor paper. And I used Detail Gold embossing powder for these ones. And I specifically chose the 2 and the 9. Because when I first got this set, I was like, well, I guess I'm going to just have to wait till I need to make, a specific birthday card, with the perfect age. But the sentiments I'm going to use and everything, it all comes together. So I'll get to that. So... Clair Brush Marker Pros. I have done many videos on my channel using these. You can watercolor with anything, like just actual watercolors, distress inks, any water reactive dye ink works. The thing with the Clair Brush Marker Pros is I find them just extremely vibrant with very little effort. And this first little bit here is real time. I haven't sped it up yet. It's going to speed up in a couple seconds right there. So I don't color this fast. However, I find with these that just scribbling the marker onto the watercolor paper and then I just pull it out with a water brush and I just get incredibly vibrant results. Off camera, just off to the side, I do have a cloth that I wipe my little water brush on, in between colors when the brush gets a little too wet at times. You don't need a water brush to use this. You can use just a regular paintbrush, dip it in water. That gives you a little more control, definitely. But this is also why I have the cloth off to the side. And for the cupcake liner, I decided to mix those two different shades of blue together and just created this really simple like ombre look. And then all the colors I chose, I purposely chose them. I was inspired by the background paper that I'm going to use to finish this card. So I picked colors that went with that. And at the beginning part, when I first started the watercoloring, I did list the specific colors. I don't always do that because a lot of times I'm just not paying attention. But I remembered this time. So everyone is welcome. Anyway. I just worked my way up with this cupcake. I gave it bright pink icing. I painted in the little greenery on these flowers. And then I did one of these flowers in a very vibrant purple. Again, just going with the colors of the background. That was also why I specifically chose to use the Caron Brush Marker Pros for this, because the background paper I'm going to use is also just, it's very vibrant, like very intense. So I wanted my main images to kind of match that intensity so that it didn't like fade out, if that makes sense. So once I was done coloring the cupcake, I did the same thing with the little candles, just using a couple of the different brush markers. Scribbled it on, pulled it out a bit with my water brush, and then let everything dry, which didn't take very long because I didn't use much water. So once these were dry, I used the coordinating wafer dies for all of these to die cut everything. And I'm just taping them into place with my little purple Easy C tape. And that just helps prevent the wafer dies from shifting when I run this through my die cut machine. So I'm going to get all of my images die cut. And then off camera, I die cut some black glitter cardstock using the Pinking Shear A2 cover plate die set. And I was going to adhere the background paper like on top of this, but one, I don't like wasting my specialty papers, like my glitter papers at all. Like it bothers me. And also I was like, ooh, but what if I made this into an actual frame instead of just as a background panel? So after I die cut it with the Pinking Shear A2 cover plate, I then just took a rectangle wafer die from my stash and die cut the center of that. So then I can take that additional piece of that black glitter cardstock, put it back in the package, and save it for a future project. So then this was the paper that inspired everything. This is the Fabulous Foiling Toner A2 Card Front Birthday Bash. Very long name. Picket Fence has many fabulous foiling toner card fronts. They also have like a blog post with like tons of really good info, all the different things. If I'm being completely honest, most of the time I use these as just straight up backgrounds because I like the pattern. And this one especially, I was like, this is like rainbow bokeh, just fabulousness. I want to cover it with nothing. So all I did was just trim it down. And I then am going to adhere that to my black glitter die cut frame. So love it. So got those adhered, and now you can see why I wanted my cupcake to be vibrant, to stand out against this very vibrant background. So I adhered my little candles together and then stuck them into their little cupcake, and then just kind of reinforced that with a little extra tape, just because that was unnecessary because I'm going to put foam tape on the back of all this anyway, but I was just being extra cautious. Why not? So put some foam tape on the back of the cupcake and the candles because I want to get these adhered into place, because of course I'm going to add some splatter, go big or go home. That's my motto. So got the backing off the foam tape. I'm going to pop this onto the background, and then I'm going to use one of my faves, my Paper Splatter Watercolor Liquid White Snowflake. Just shimmery goodness. So shook that up, put a little bit of it on my little palette. I've got my background in my splat box, and I just used a fan brush and splattered this across the cupcake, the candles, the background, the frame. Why not? So it'll still be somewhat subtle, but it just adds a little extra bit of shimmer, So splattered that, gotta let that dry. And then for my sentiments, I am using the Swanky Sentiments Birthday stamp set. And this is what inspired me to use the 29, the two numbers, is there's a sentiment in that set that says, I heard you are 29 again. And I was like, that's so perfect. Love it. But also I was like, that gives this birthday card a little bit of like an opening. It can be kind of for anyone for the most part, within reason, you know what I mean? So I was like, ooh, I could make a few of these and have extras, in my stash that you can just pull out and it works. Another thing you could do though is have everything ready to go and then have some numbers, or just sit down and quickly heat emboss or color in a few numbers and then die cut them and then attach them at the end, because you could just tuck them in. It'd be simple if everything else was ready to go. So that's a nice way too, because I do like making like custom birthday cards for people, like specifying it to like what their favorites are or their birthday or adding their name. It's just that little extra something that's kind of one of the big perks of like making cards, is you can customize it to the recipient. So you could make cards like this and just make a stash of them and then just leave off the numbers until it's time to give it to the person. That's another option too. So anywho, I gold heat embossed those sentiments onto black cardstock, use the coordinating wafer dies to die cut them after they were heat embossed. And then on the inside of my card base is a top folding A2 white note card. And on the inside, I stamped that cupcake image with salvaged patina distress ink, just something kind of subtle. And then I adhered the happy birthday sentiment that I had heat embossed and die cut onto the inside. And then I'm going to adhere the card front to the card base. And then the I heard you were 29 again sentiment, that I'm going to pop up with a little bit of foam adhesive on either end, because it hangs off the sides of the cupcake. So I'm going to put a little bit of foam adhesive on either side of this, and then a bit of liquid glue down the center, and then I'm going to pop that into place onto the card front here. And then as my final little bit of embellishment, I'm using the Speed of Light gem mix from Picket, because these kind of reflect like almost a rainbow of colors. So it's like they'll work perfectly, and it just gives it that little extra. So I kind of tucked them in around the shimmery splatter I had added. Once I was happy with the placement, I'm just going to adhere these into place with little dabs of craft tacky glue, and that finished off the card. So like I mentioned in the intro, I will have links to all the things in the description box below the video, so you can just expand that to check it out if you are interested. As always, thank you all so very much for taking the time to watch my videos. Thumbs upping and commenting also helps a ton. It just helps tell the robot overlords you like what you see and boost things in the algorithms. And subscribe if you haven't. I'd love to have you. And I will see you all very soon in another video. Bye.